trading for Cortland Sutton because I'm sick and tired of watching Garrett Wilson get triple teamed. And Cortland Sutton's a guy that his cap number isn't that bad. He's a bigger receiver. This team has to get bigger, and he plays bigger. He's not like Alan Lazard, who's big but plays small. And he's a willing blocker in the run game, and that's what you want from these guys on the outside. It's what the Jets missed from Corey Davis. And then defensively, I'm going to tell you, Meegs, I thought they were going to sign Eric Armstead. That's why I thought Bob was going to be pounding the table for. I was like, the minute the Niners let him go, I said, yeah, that brother's going to be a Jet. That brother's going to be a Jet.
Give me that 2 for 23, and we bulling.
We would have been good. Yeah, we would have been good. And then you have Jermaine and the law firm, John Franklin Myers. For me, you mentioned Justin Simmons. I think that's a really good point. Jordan Poyer would have been the guy that I would have wanted to take for a year, $2 million, but he went to Miami. Micah Hyde is still available, right? There's a lot of guys jumping division.
I'd rather get Micah Hyde. Jordan Poyer,
So Micah Hyde would be the guy. Like if we're talking about adding a safety, Micah's the guy that I'm like, you know what? You put him on the back end. And that's because I think right now with Joe Douglas, when he decides to wake up from his siesta, I think you want to get guys in here that come from winning programs. The Bills have won a lot of games over the last few years. That's why Tyron Smith matters so much, I think, to your point. Because, again, you got Moses, who's used to a standard here. I know Miko said there were helmets all over the place. I don't think that's going to happen with Tyron and Morgan Moses. For me, I think there's still talent out there. But I think you got to get another pass catcher in here. I like Tyler Boyd, but it seems like he's headed to Pittsburgh, right? Or he's earmarked for the Steelers. But you got to get another,
because he's from the area. Yep.
Right, but you got to get another pass catcher in here. Let's talk NFL draft, Meegs. So let's say the Jets, they don't sign Tyron Smith because Joe Douglas decides to fall asleep at the wheel. So CBS Sports dropped their latest mock 2 hours ago. And they have the New York Jets selecting the mounted, the 6'7", 322-pound left tackle from Notre Dame, Joe Alt. How would you feel about that pick by Joe Douglas at 10 if Joe Alt somehow falls to 10 and the New York Jets?
I mean, there is no, I don't think, better scenario than Joe Alt just falling to 10 that you could think of. He's plug and play. They have the need on the left-hand side. Some people really think Joe Alt is special, where Penei Sewell level good, bordering on the Trent Williams level prospect coming out of Texas, which I'm not quite there on Joe Alt. He's fantastic. I think he's offensive tackle 1 to me. I don't think he's Joe Alt's going to be the all-pro left tackle of the league in year 2, but I think he's going to be a very good player. I think you're never, ever going to – as soon as Joe Alt gets to past year 3 in his rookie contract, you're going to want to extend him. Kind of like how Andrew Thomas was for the Giants in that way, how Jake Matthews has been for the Falcons, just a rock-solid left play. There's never going to be more than 5 or 6 left tackles that are better than Joe Alt, and he's always going to be consistent. Just how he moves for how long and how big he is just, I think that's what's the rare part of his game. Yeah. And he can play. I think he can play in the zone. I think he play in a gap scheme. I don't think he's scheme dependent in any way, shape, or form. He would be an ideal home run. Even I would not say anything bad about Joe Douglas until he probably reaches at pick 73 at least if he took Joe Alt.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, Joe Alt to me, so I have him as OT2 behind Fashanu. I love Fashanu. I'm really high on Fashanu. But Joe Alt, do you remember the comparisons Mekhi Becton got, right? They compared him to Jonathan Ogden, right? That's who they compared him to, right? And that, very clearly was a huge mistake. Yeah, Joe Alt is closer. He's not going to be he's not going to beat Ogden, but he's significantly closer to Ogden than Becton was, right? And to your point, again, not scheme dependent, great first punch, doesn't get knocked, for a man his size, doesn't get knocked back as much as you
really would. Good balance for someone so tall.
Yeah, right, which you don't see. And can you imagine Aaron Rodgers protected by this 6'7" monster of a man at left tackle and this 6 foot, almost 7 foot monster of a right tackle? The Jets are soft. They have been a soft team. Joe Alt and Morgan Moses changed that. They changed that drastically.
The Jets are a lot more of a walk off the bus, look at them kind of team. If you have John Simpson, Joe Alt, Morgan Moses, ABT is a nice, quiet guy, but he's a bulldog on the field. Tippmann's a huge center. They have a lot of mass in the offensive line. They can add Joe Alt, which they just really haven't had. Yeah. And I'm hearing reports that they should bring back Connor McGovern. Connor McGovern is exactly everything that's been wrong with the New York Jets offensive line for 3 years. That guy is soft. That guy does not play hard. Does
That's a
not play
fact.
top. I'm so sick of watching him. I don't care if it's as a depth backup. He's a fine player, whatever. Get him on a different team. I never want to watch him again. It's just infuriating to watch that offensive line just be so vanilla. Like this,
That's
like
a fact.
this is
No,
the whole
it's
point.
true. It's true. Well, and I know like Jet fans got mad at what Deion Dawkins decided to say, looking like Rick Ross with his big ass chain, Vlad TV. But there's a lot of truth to what he said. There's a lot of truth to what he said. There's a
Yeah,
soft team, soft team. Shout out to Sauce for going to Ryan Clark and
yeah.
flambeing him and Miko Hardman. But again, there is some truth. All right, say the Jets do sign Tyron Smith. I'm going to throw another one. This is from the 33rd team, right? The good folks at the 33rd team. They have, now again, keep in mind, in this scenario, the Jets signed Tyron Smith. Brock Bowers, the pick at 10. Now, we both agree they need to get pass catchers in here. They got to get some weapons in here. It can't just be Garrett Wilson, again, being like hogtied and mollywopped, up and down the sideline. If the Jets sign Tyron Smith, how do you feel about Brock Bowers as the pick at 10?
So to me, like Brock Bowers would be a slam dunk. Like he's one of the few. Like he's there. Like there are only a couple blue chip players in this class. He's one of them. Brock Bowers would be fantastic. He would fit Garrett really well. I think he would fit Rodgers really well, and just all the things you can do with him as like whether you play him in line, whether you play him in the slot, whether you put him in the backfield, and you want to get a little creative with it that way. Brock Bowers is Sam Laporta. I think with a little more like after the catch, a little more juice. I think he's even a better blocker.
Yeah.
Brock Bowers is a day one starter. Could be a Pro Bowl tight end as a rookie.
Yeah.
Would be a great pick at 10 overall, and would be a really. They don't really have anything like him in this offense.
Yeah.
Like he at all. Like I think we're trying to figure out who's the best like complement for Garrett. And like I think a lot of people like will just like, Garrett's a small receiver. He's really good at yak. He's really good after he's really good, moving. And then everyone wants to put like an X receiver next to him, like Mike Williams and Garrett. Makes sense. Cortland Sutton and Mike Williams makes sense. Like I think in the draft, people like look at Roma Dunze and Garrett just to have those two complement each other because you put him with a ball winner, and then he can be like that Z slot guy. Brock Bowers can do all that because he can do so many different things. He's such a physical player. He's so good at the catch point. He'd be a slam dunk at 10. If Tyron's on the team, Brock Bowers becomes much more realistic and one of the best picks they can make at that selection.
Yeah, and I'd argue that just how folks felt when Sauce and Garrett won, offensive and defensive rookie of the year, you'd have to put money on Brock Bowers as probably the favorite non-quarterback, him and Marvin Harrison Jr., because Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get peppered with targets wherever he goes, right? Like if he ends up in Arizona with Kyler Murray's going to make sure to find him. But Brock Bowers ending up in New York, because again, you have to figure the Falcons, they may take a wide receiver. They have Kirk, right? But they paid Darnell Mooney $13 million, right? So they paid that man. And they got Drake London. And they have Kyle Pitts. Do you try to add a third wide receiver on that team? And you still have Bijan Robinson who has to get touches. So I'm curious where they go. But Brock Bowers in New York, opposite Garrett, to your point, the flexibility, the ability to put him in the slot, to flank him out wide and throw a fade to him in the end, and then the red zone. Again, there's a very small team. The Jets have been a notoriously small team on offense. Brock Bowers, I think you're right. I think Brock Marvin are probably like the two best offensive players in this. Yeah, by far, clear as day. I think they're the two best offensive players.
You need to respect my man Malik Neighbors.
Oh yeah, and Malik. And again, we've said this, and Connor said this too. The gap between Malik and Marvin isn't that big, right? Because I did see a mock.
He's a wide receiver one in a lot of drafts.
Yeah, and I did see a mock earlier this week that had the Jets taking Malik, and I said, I wouldn't even be mad at that.
Oh my god!
All right, Meegs,
the card right now.
Before we wrap, worst. Right now, it is March 13th. This episode will air March 14th, and then we'll be back on March 28th. Right now, March 13th. Who is the absolute worst prospect? We're past the senior day, past the combine, past the senior bowl. Who's the worst pick that Joe Douglas could take at 10 right now?
I think it's still J.C. Latham. Okay. I've grown more to Marius Mims that were like, I get it. He's just so freaky.
Yeah.
And then in fact that he's been training on both the right side and the left side, and all his stuff is more health stuff and actual talent. That I've talked myself more into that pick. So that's not. I think it's J.C. Latham.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would just be Joe Douglas is just it's like what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's just taking more bad offensive linemen like the Joe Douglas special. So he would be the worst.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So
what about you? What are you thinking? Who's Tuesday?
I'm gonna go defense because to your point about Joe Douglas and this fucking insanity shit, it would be him taking another edge rusher 3 years in a row.
yeah. Which is this that Bob is just like defense.
Yes.
Okay.
And that guy, so I'll tell you, like I've had this conversation with a few friends, like like Shane Hallam, who I've gotten cool with. I'm in like this dynasty league with him, and he and I talked. I I could talk myself into Jared Verse. Like I can talk myself into it, right? Like I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
he's probably like edge to it worse than
right.
this draft.
Dallas Turner, I cannot talk myself into.
Oh, Dallas Turner's edge one, bro. Why you hating?
Here's why. So here's why. Because if you hadn't taken Will McDonald last year, I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine. I understand why you took Dallas Turner. If after taking Will McDonald and after taking Jermaine Johnson and after letting Bryce Huff walk, the card you turn in is Dallas Turner, like that'll be the day that I'm telling you, Meegs, I will go, dust off my Lamar Jackson jersey and just pledge my allegiance to the Ravens flock, man. Because it's one of those things, similar to how you're saying about J.C. Latham and just, again, bad offensive lineman, right? J.C. Latham would be repeating the Mekhi Becton mistake. I think that's exactly what it would be. It would be repeating. Yeah. I think taking another edge after you done invested 2 first-round picks into edge rusher, restructured Carl Lawson's deal to keep him when you should have just let him walk, right? And you lose Bryce Huff for substantially less money than I think a lot of us thought he was. We were hearing, he wants $20 million.
Not an egregious
Not egregious at all. And the Eagles, who were like, hey, we know he played 40% of the snaps for y'all. We are going to get him to replace Hassan Reddick, who paid 70% of the snaps for us, and we're going to turn him loose next to Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
So Dallas Carter would be the one for me. I'd be like, oh, fuck.
It'd be so funny if he actually did that because he didn't think Bryce Huff was worthy of an extension, and because he was a UDFA that he developed and think they can do it again. And then he spent 2 first-round picks trying to replace his output would just be perfect.
Right. No, because there's so many memes going on Twitter now where it's Joe Douglas saying like, we feel we had our price, we didn't budge. Really excited about insert player X, insert player X, Jason Brownlee, whoever it is. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Draft Season. We will be back in 2 weeks where Meegs and I will deliver our latest mock draft. By then, we hope the Jets have added a pass catcher. And in an ideal world, they would have signed Tyron Smith so they don't have to take a left tackle instead. Thank you guys for rocking with us, and we will be back in 2 weeks. All right.